Okay, welcome again, and thanks for joining us in today's Colombia mining market briefings. Today we will discuss about the current COVID situation in Colombia, the impact COVID had on the mining and resources sector. We will go through a brief Colombia mining sector overview, the mining sector performance in 2020, and short-term outlook. We will go through some projects, their status, opportunities for METS companies, and then we will also look at Colombia's recovery strategy with mining and resources as a main point of focus. Our speaker for today is our special guest, Alejandra Calderón. Alejandra is the Business Development Director for Austrade in Colombia. Alejandra is in Colombia right now, and she will share first-hand information on the Colombian mining industry. So here you can find Alejandra's contact information. We will share this presentation as we did with the previous two presentations. So welcome, Alejandra, and thanks for joining us. And I guess I will leave it up to you now.
Thank you, William, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you, at least through this screen. As William mentioned, I'm the Business Development Manager for Resources and Energy and the Infrastructure sector. And in this, we're going to talk about the generalities and information about COVID and the situation in Colombia. So after the second peak, which was at the end of January, we had around 23,000 cases per day. Now we see an average of 3,200 and around 100 deaths per day. And up to date, or as of today, we have 2,282 cases in Colombia. Colombia started the vaccination program in February 25th, 26th, starting with the frontline medical workers and the people, and we are already starting with people over 80 years. So we have around 316 people that has already been vaccinated as per Monday, and we're still receiving vaccines and starting to vaccinate the rest of the country. In regards to the measures that the government has taken to sort of control the pandemic, the government established a mandatory prevention plan. This plan has been extended until May 31st. In that case, still no major events are happening. Most of them are virtual still. And there are international traveling allowed, but they have to have a negative PCR test taken before they enter Colombia, or they can take it when they arrive and want to wait for the results. Otherwise, they have to be isolated up to 2 weeks. Also, at the beginning of the pandemic, Colombia prioritized a few sectors, including mining, infrastructure, manufacturing, as again priority sectors for Colombia, so they could continue activities under strict biosecurity protocols, including like all of the protocols that the government has designed for the sectors. Next one, William. In regards to the mining sector, they adopted all of the companies were very quick in adopting health and safety measures in their projects, although maintaining just they reduced a lot of their operations, and the people that were working, most of the people were just priority for the operation only. There was a contingency teams on site to avoid workers entering and leaving the mine. And also because of the regions, they were very concerned about the spread of the virus, because we didn't have many information. So that's why the companies decided to have these contingency teams in place. Also, we had of course, as pretty much every country in the world, we have a negative impact on the economy because of the pandemic. Last year, or 2019, Colombia achieved 3.3% of the PIB, and it was the highest number since 2014. So also, so you have some information, we are an investment graded country. We are the fourth destination in Latin America for doing business. We are the third country in Latin America with the mineral resources and reserves standards. And in regards to free trade agreements, unfortunately, we don't have a direct free trade agreement with Australia yet. So what we are doing is we're currently negotiating a free trade agreement through the Pacific Alliance, in which Colombia is part of it, along with Mexico, Peru, and Chile. Even though, next one, Will, please. In the next slide, the Colombia, or the mining sector, accounted for 1.3% of the PIB, of the GDP, sorry, in which coal occupied the first place in the mining with 53%, and gold and metals the second place with 31%. Again, all of these figures are after the pandemic. These are 2020 numbers, so you will see a 20% drop from the mining activities in Colombia. We also had 11.7 of foreign direct investment and 154,000 direct jobs in Colombia. We still place number 1 in emeralds and gold in Latin America, number 4 in nickel, and number 7 in copper and gold. This year, Fraser Institute gave the recognition to Colombia as the first investment attractiveness index and best practices for mineral potential index in Latin America. And some of the, most of it, again, because of the potential, the mining potential that we have in the region. Colombia is not being explored, or we are in the process of, we only have 3.26% of mining concessions in Colombia, with around 72,000 mining titles that have been granted, mainly in construction and material, which is more of the traditional mining for us, as long as with coal, but also with gold and other minerals and emeralds and copper, which is our new biggest mineral in Colombia. In the pipeline, we have 5% exploration, 7% of the pipeline is in construction and assembly, and 88% is in exploitation. Most of it, I just have to clarify as well, is that most of it is also from small mining in Colombia. Only 18% of the projects are large scale. Australian presence in Colombia, we are the second highest investors in Colombia through BHP, which is the 33% investor for Cerrejón mine, which is the first or the largest open pit coal mine in Colombia or in Latin America. We also have the presence of Rio Tinto, Fortescue, which both of them have applications at the Colombian or the National Mining Agency. Then South 32, they have a ferronickel mine, which is Cerro Matoso, and with Cerros. They acquired Andes Resources at the beginning of last year. So now they are one of the largest, or at the end, or one of the pipeline projects in the region. We also have around more than 55 companies in the METS side that are already or have established an office in Colombia. But we also rely a lot on the other over 150 METS that we have in the region.
Okay. Thank you, Alejandra, for that great introduction. I will go a bit over Colombia's mining sector performance in 2020. Of course, as every other country, COVID affected the industry pretty hard. Colombia is facing its largest recession in the history, and mining is expecting to drop in more than 20%. The mining industry value in Colombia dropped from $6 billion in 2019 to 4.5 billion in 2020. It is expected to bounce back next year in a slight, mainly driven by slight recovery in coal mine production, gold prices, and also an increase in gold production. The coal mine production in 2020 was close to 56 million tons compared to 82 million tons in 2019. So in the previous slide, we saw that 32% decrease year to year. Main drivers for that were restrictions on operations and mobility, dropping coal prices due to lower global demand, and other structural factors affecting the coal industry in Colombia. On the other hand, gold production increased, which is a good sign, from close to 1.2 million ounces a year in 2019 to close to 1.5 million ounces in 2020. That's a 20% increase. And the main driver of that is the higher demand of gold and the start of new gold mining operations in Colombia. What does 21 and 22 look like for coal? Coal production is expected to increase slightly, but it will not make up for the losses in 2020. And then there are some news from the industry, in the coal industry in Colombia. Glencore is relinquishing mining contracts at their Prodeco operations and handing back its mining contracts to the Republic of Colombia. And also at BHP, at their Cerrejón operation, they are looking to divest from thermal coal assets. And that's a news we got from Anglo American several months ago. And they are planning to do the same thing, to exit the Cerrejón assets over the 2 to 3 next years. In the table, you can see a forecast on the production for 2020 to 2024. Again, we will share this information back to you by email and on our METS cluster site. As far as gold, the outlook is much better. Gold production will be supported by rising gold prices and a solid gold project pipeline in Colombia. There's a forecast to grow from 1.7 million ounces in 2021 to 2.1 million ounces by 2030. Some news from the mining industry: Gran Colombia Gold, they report a full year production of 220,000 ounces. That was a drop, but that was mainly driven by all the restrictions due to COVID-19. Another big news is Chinese miner Zijin Mining. They acquired the Buritica project for Continental Gold in $1 billion. And recently, Zijin Mining announced the inauguration of this project. This is a low-cost project, around $600 per ounce, and they're expected to produce about 250,000 gold ounces a year. And at the same time, B2Gold purchased a stake in the Gramalote project, previously owned by AngloGold Ashanti, and now they have a stake of 50% in it. Again, in the table, you can see the projections for this year. It's increasing year by year, so that's a good outlook on the gold industry in Colombia, with an interesting pipeline of projects. So Alejandra will go into more details in the mining projects portfolio, and then also discuss opportunities for METS companies in the sector.
Thank you, William. Well, in regards to coal, I just want to point out also that Colombia's coal production represents around 89% of Latin America's production. In Colombia, we produce metallurgic and thermal coal, which in the case of thermal coal, it produces high quality due to the high calorific value. And as I mentioned, some of the projects that we have currently, especially on the thermal coal, is Cerrejón, again, the largest coal open pit mine. We had Prodeco. Still, the government now is actually looking for new investors for this asset. And we also have Drummond, TTDB coal also, which is more on the metallurgic side. We also have many of them that are mainly located in the central area of Colombia, such as Antioquia, Cundinamarca, and Boyacá. And the thermal coal is more on the coast. And the next one, William, please, which is more on the gold side. Some of the major projects that we have, we started with four like major gold projects that started production in 2018 and 2020. As William mentioned, we have Buritica, but we are also expecting to have other projects that are at the end of their exploration phase, such as Gramalote or Colosa or La Mina, other projects that are on this pipeline. And as William mentioned, he will be sharing this information with you. In the next one, we have other projects. We have Miraflores, which is the project from Cerros, an Australian company that is also under, they finalized their drilling exercises, and they are should be coming out soon with new programs and opportunities for companies. Next one, William. Well, we have, again, as I mentioned last year, they sort of inaugurated the Colombia, the Zijin mining, Buritica. It's a project with gold and silver underground mine. And the construction was, again, completed last year. They had a lifespan of 14 years and a gold production of 503,000 ounces per year. The project includes like tailing storage, surface, water handling infrastructure. They have utility infrastructure, mine water sediments, and other areas for you to consider, and where there would be opportunities. They're currently looking for technology on the 4.0 innovation technology, but also they're starting to test, or they've been testing the currently technology that they have and see how they can make improvements and of course increase their productivity and efficiency. In the next one, which is B2 Gold, Gramalote, this is a project between B2 Gold and AngloGold Ashanti. It's gold and copper with a production of 283 ounces per year, 1,000 ounces per year. This project is waiting, or they already have their environmental license and all of the approvals to start construction. So they're looking to start construction by mid of this year, and with probably for 2 years. So that's a project also to follow. They have that right now, or they're currently looking for the EPCM company that will be sort of be the construction company, and they will be doing all of the procurement process through them. So we are already in contact with them, and of course, as soon as we get more information on the opportunities that will be coming up, we will be sharing it with all of you. Okay, before that one then, there are other projects that are on the pipeline. So we are expecting those projects to also reach environmental license at the end of this year. So again, once we have more information on those gold and copper projects, that we will be also reaching out. In the copper side, which is sort of like the new expectation from the government to launch new projects. So we will be, again, reaching out with information and opportunities for those. So mainly right now, the opportunities for MET companies are focused on innovation and technology, again, to increase the productivity and efficiency of the operations. Again, community is always a challenge in Colombia, not only because of communities in regards to indigenous communities, but also because a lot of these operations are operating in areas where are not connected to the national grid, or that we were before a part of the peace process that Colombia started in since 2018, sorry. And this is opening again a lot of community issues. So the same on the environmental consultancy, and again, because the concerns on how technology could mitigate a lot of the environmental impacts on the operations. Training is always a key priority for companies. Unfortunately, Colombia doesn't have a very developed med sector. So what they're trying to do is for companies that are looking to transfer knowledge to the communities, and also to the companies that are in their main area of influence. Equipment and supply for underground in mining, also, but also for open pit projects. We have the B2Gold project that we were mentioning before is going to be a copper open pit. So that's also a major request that we get. And of course, because of the pandemic, its safety is also a priority.
Yes, I wanted to include this slide. This was released by the Ministry of Mining and Energy in Colombia. The path to recovery in Colombia will mainly be supported by the mining and energy sectors. In this slide, you can see that 7% of the national GDP comes from the mining and energy sector. It considers 12% of the government revenue, and also foreign direct investment is 34% represented in the mining and energy sectors, and 56% of exports come from this sector. So very important for the path to recover in Colombia, and this at the same time will generate many opportunities. Strategic access, strong focus on renewables, energy security, sustainable mobility, and mining diversification. And the Colombian government has prioritized 33 projects for a value of $9 billion, and that consists on 24 energy projects, 8 mining projects, and 7 hydrocarbon projects. So as more information is released on that, I'm sure Alejandra will share that with us and with all of you, so you can tap opportunities in that space as well. Alejandra?
Yes. Also, a key priority in this mining reactivation of for Colombia, it's the diversification of minerals that we currently have. So again, becoming copper, phosphates, and gold one of the priorities. So the government launched this past March, February, March. They started with rounds. Investment rounds. So we started with copper. Again, there are 4 and there are 4 strategic areas that the government has sort of studied and analyzed, and had started consultations with communities. And this will be the same case for phosphate and gold again in the plan to diversify the mining sector. Also, we will see again, because of the energy transition that Colombia is going through, the importance again of copper, but also how to become or make the coal that we still have in Colombia more competitive as part of the lowering emissions, and again, these type of technologies are of big interest for Colombia. And also there will be other rounds coming up for other minerals such as emerald and coal, but they will be beginning probably at the mid of this year or next year, depending again on the areas. So in the next slide, William, please, is, for example, the first one, which is, again, I mentioned before, it's copper. They're mainly focused on Cesar and Guajira. Because the areas that they have identified, the 4 areas that they have identified, they haven't found any indigenous community where they have to do local or indigenous consultations. That's why this one they're starting with this first mineral. In the next ones, they have some tentative dates, but it will depend on the indigenous community presence in those areas. The idea, again, to contribute to the diversification. It's a more competitive conditions for the investors. Again, a lot of the work that is required is in the process. The government is also working with other ministries and with communities and state governments to sort of boost the sector, the exploration and exploitation of those minerals. And the areas will be awarded under a special exploration and exploitation contract, which also will provide better security for the investment companies interested. I think that's the last one, right?
Yes. The last one. So thank you for that great presentation and information. Please, if you have some questions, please type them in the Q&A section of Zoom, and we will happy to take those questions on. So, and Brendan is out there again to take all your questions.
Question from Dr. Chris Doran again. Hello, Chris. What is the security situation like at present in Colombia?
Well, we still have security issues in Colombia. The government and again the National Mining Agency, as part of their strategy to support investment companies and of course their service providers and other companies are trying to or working together with the army, especially, and I think I mentioned it on the presentation, most of the areas where the mining and resources and energy sector are present are those areas that were at war. We have a free peace agreement that was signed in 2018, and still we are in the process of developing those regions, and that's why the government is trying to support those investors. But yeah, there are some issues depending on areas. So for example, areas like in the Pacific, on the Choco area or Cauca, some areas of Antioquia, but they are, that's why the companies are working together with the state governments or their local governments to support on that front.
Thank you, Alejandra. And Mike Martin from PR Polymers has asked what flight route from Brisbane would you take to get to Colombia these days?
Good question. So right now, my understanding is that they should be expecting a flight soon from Chile. Right now, my understanding is that most of the flights are through LA. Colombia has been working and actually was working to have a direct flight either to Sydney or Melbourne. Unfortunately, it had to be postponed after the pandemic, and we'll have to see. But so far, it's either through Chile or LA.
Okay, thank you. And I was curious about infrastructure spending. Obviously, with Colombia's economy experiencing some difficulty at the moment, as many global economies are, is there any potential for some stimulus spending like we've seen recently in the United States, or indeed here in Australia with the COVID subsidy, if you like, and also about infrastructure spending, if there's anything on the radar for the Colombian government to invest in some infrastructure?
Well, actually, that's a very good question. Colombia started in 2018. They launched it's called the Fourth Generation Program, which estimated a 17 billion investment to build over 4,400 miles of new roads, tunnels, and other like a road opportunities. And they were also designed to expand the country's transport system to include like ports, rail, and again, most of these projects have been happening since 2018. Pretty much when they started construction. So there is a project. Actually, the government right now is also looking to include river navigability through our main river Magdalena, And those are some of the investment that they have made, but also with a new APP or PPP model that there was Colombia included.
And what about, as we've seen in the United States, they're handing out, I think, $1,400 US to every citizen in that country. Is there no way?
No, right now, unfortunately, no. We don't. The government hasn't had any capacity for that.
Okay. One from Tim Haight from NLT. Any moves on free trade that you might see?
Well, as I mentioned before, we are in the process of negotiating a free trade agreement through the Pacific Alliance. We are very advanced in the Colombian side. Again, agriculture is always an issue, so we are still waiting for that negotiation to finish, hopefully by the end of this year. But again, it's still a prospect again, because the countries that are part of the Pacific Alliance, all of them, when the negotiations started, all of them were going through elections. So first Mexico, then Colombia, and now we will go into elections next year. So that's why the government is trying to speed up the negotiations to finish by the end of this year.
Thank you. And one from Yvonne. Could you please explain about Ronda Minera 2021 and what that might include?
Well, the Rondas Mineras are, again, the new model for mineral diversification that the government started just this March with the launch of the copper round. There are 4 projects that are happening in La Guajira and Cesar. Those 4 projects that they are launching already have a community consultation, and a state and local government consultation. Also, it's a competitive contractual conditioning to boost the exploration and exploitation in the mining sector. And it's a way also to promote promotion of the domestic and foreign direct investment. The areas will be awarded under a special contract, depending on exploration and exploitation, and an objective selection process. That's the information that we have, but actually the government is planning to do a session for Australia in the coming either weeks, or it's going to happen in April. If you want to send me also an email, I have a presentation that I can also share that was actually presented yesterday at TIQ with the new process and how to qualify and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And another question from Tim. The coal product certifications are an issue. Do they use IEC or MSHA, to your knowledge, in Colombia?
My understanding is that they use the IEC, but I will have to check on that side.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have one just about the Colombia Gold Symposium. Alejandra, do you know if and when that is occurring?
Well, in terms of events, again, because the events have been postponed and the emergency was postponed to May 31st, everything is happening at either October, November of this year. Probably it will be virtual, but also with a component of like I have a presence at the event. But again, we don't know exactly when they will happen. We have 2 major events in the mining sector, which are the Gold Symposium, as you mentioned. It seems as this year they will be joining efforts with the Antioquia government or Secretary of Mines, which will make it or have a larger presence for METS, sorry. And the other event that we have is the Colombian Mining Association one, that again, hopefully will happen in November.
Thank you very much for that information.
Why is Anglo and Glencore exiting the Colombian market, to your knowledge?
Well, we haven't had any information directly from them, but again, it's because a lot of the companies are in their process of decarbonization. And again, the coal prices have not been helping much. So that's the information that we have so far.
Okay.
Well, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank all of you again for attending today's market briefing and also the two previous ones. So we thank you very much for your attendance, and just stay connected. We will have soon more news to you about upcoming events pretty soon that are certainly of interest for you, and they will be more business focused. So we wanted to start off just providing an update on how the markets are doing. And now we will go into some business rounds, and we will inform you about that in the coming days. Alejandra, thank you very much for participating with us today. You shared very helpful information about the Colombian mining market, and thanks so much for taking on all those questions. So again, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, have a great rest of the day, and we expect to see you soon. Ciao.